Hi guys, this is gsndom.com and I'm here with the Sony Xperia XA1 Ultra. It's one of the biggest phones we've tested recently. It's a 6-inch handset and it's the 6-inch version of the Xperia XA1, which we are also testing. It was unveiled at Mobile World Congress 2017 and it's quite a big phablet that was made available in May this year, and you can find it online priced at around $400 on Amazon.com. So it's a high mid-ranger with a flagship level camera as Sony itself promises, and also a tablet alternative with a penchant for selfies. We got a pretty impressive selfie camera here with a potent flash. So it comes in white, black, gold or pink, and guess what? It's not waterproof this time. Now as far as the design is concerned, it's typical Sony Xperia affair but in a different format. Nowadays big phablets tend to be wide. This one is rather narrow, as you can see by my way of gripping it and using it with a single hand, either the left one or the right one, so quite narrow and I would say reasonably comfy. As you can see, it adopts the Xperia XA1 edge-to-edge screen. On the sides very narrow bezels, but the top and bottom one are big, so you can properly grip it when playing games or watching videos. It measures 8.1mm in thickness and weighs 188 grams, which by the way is the same weight of the iPhone 7 Plus, so not bad for a 6-incher. At the same time, it's slimmer than the Motorola Nexus 6 and also 4 grams heavier. It's hefty, but it's also well built, and it has metal frame here on the side, a soft touch back which I guess is covered polycarbonate, and a 2.5D glass panel at the front, which is gorgeous looking once you fire on the screen and you see the edge-to-edge goodness. So it's a good looking device. Thanks to the fact that it's narrow, it's also quite comfy, and when you hold it like this, it's pure gold for Netflix and gaming. Now, on the display front, we got a 6-inch Full HD IPS LCD Gorilla Glass protected panel. That's a mouthful, and we put it to the test using this video player here. We have a lot of videos, but I'm going to use this one for the sake of testing. Of course, you can tweak stuff here. We have a variety of options, but I will not get into that. So, the actual viewing experience, well, it's bright, that's for sure. We got pretty deep blacks for a non-Super AMOLED panel. The colors are a bit cold if you ask me, and we have wide angles. And by the way, the contrast was excellent even in full sunlight. Now, let's see how this screen fared in our tests. We got the album here. We have quite a few folders, and here we go. So first of all, we put the screen under the microscope and found the classic RGB stripes pixel arrangement, and then we did a brightness test. As you can see, we achieved a lot of results, but the biggest one is the one that matters: 611 lux units. This is very impressive. It's certainly top 10 or even top 5 material of all the phones we've tested. By the way, it's the equal of the Sony Xperia XZ, and it surpasses the Google Pixel XL, iPhone 7, Huawei P10, but scores only slightly below the OnePlus 3 and the iPhone 6s. Of course, the screen has its very own settings. Some of them you may be familiar with from other Xperia phones. So we got brightness level, adaptive brightness here, okay, smart backlight control, image enhancement with image enhancement here, super vivid mode or keeping it off. And by the way, I told you before that the colors are cold, you can solve it from here. White balance with RGB sliders, font size, display size, system icons, and that's about it. An excellent screen. I have to say I'm pretty blown away by the brightness. Once again, 611 lux. Now it's time to address other aspects of the phone. I'm talking about the rest of the hardware. This brings us to the processor and the other hardware. So it's a MediaTek Helio P20 octa-core CPU, and this one comes with 4 GB of RAM, 32 or 64 GB of storage, and every once in a while a bit of lag crept in. So as you can see here, this is a trace of lag. It's happening right now. Wasn't expecting it. Anyway, every once in a while you run into some lag when you have too many apps open, and it's especially related to the camera area. As you can see, it's stuck for some reason. After all, the MediaTek Helio P20 and 4 GB of RAM should be enough, so it's rather odd for me that these things keep happening. Most of all, the camera will be the one posing problems, so after you're filming and taking photos for a long while, lag may appear. At least the gaming is good, and I'm talking about Riptide GP Renegade, our usual benchmark title. We also played the new Final Fantasy, but that one is a strategy game, so not very challenging graphics. Okay, Riptide GP Renegade. I have to admit, Sony could have used the Snapdragon CPU. They went for the cheaper MediaTek, and this kind of shows sometimes when the performance drops, but at least the battery life is kept pretty good. Okay, so our usual benchmark game is here, and we're playing it. Nice looking water and the amazing edge-to-edge effect. Responsive controls, digging the frame rate so far. It's a Mali T880 MP2 GPU. So far so good. I see no skip, no frame loss. Nice textures, water and all that. Not many objections here. Now, we also did a bunch of benchmarks, and I'm going to close this to make sure no other trace of lag appears. Okay, so I promised you benchmarks. Come on. There's a bit of lag happening every once in a while. So each time you want to open something, something will creep up on you. Okay, so we did a bunch of benchmarks, and let's see what's happening here. We got Quadrant, we got Antutu, we just have to find them. There's quite a few of them in here. There's 3D Mark, there's Velamo, there's Geekbench, and many, many more. Okay, so here we go. I have to say that in the benchmark Quadrant we surpassed HTC 10 and OnePlus 3, and in Antutu 6 we scored this result here. This one beats the Asus Zenfone 3 and the Motorola Moto Z Play, but scores below the LG V10 and the Lenovo Vibe X3. We also did the 3D Mark iStorm Unlimited benchmark, and this is the result that came out. It's a pretty typical result for a mid-ranger. It beats the Samsung Galaxy A5 2017 but scores below the Asus Zenfone 3 and the Huawei Nova. Overall the results are okay. A few more of them are shown here. This is Basemark X, for example. This is Geekbench 3. We also have Geekbench 4. All of them will be found in the full review. In the end, I feel that this model is about on par with the Asus Zenfone 3 and beats the Samsung Galaxy A5 2017. Now, a bit of a bummer here, the temperatures. When you're playing the game Riptide GP Renegade, you get overheating, 43.2 degrees Celsius, and that's serious overheating. Now when it comes to the benchmarks, we did not surpass 35.2 degrees Celsius when running GFX Bench, at least. Now, on the battery front, we were treated to an apparently modest choice, 2700 mAh, feels low for a 6-incher, but the end result is not that bad, possibly because of MediaTek technology. Okay, so once again, I'm going to have to look through the screenshots in order to actually find the usage time achieved on this phone. Okay, got it here, and we first ran a continuous loop of video and achieved 10 hours 34 minutes of continuous video playback, basically a whole season of TV shows. It beats the LG G5 and the iPhone 7 Plus, but scored below the iPhone 7 and the Huawei Mate 9. Now on the PC Mark front, we achieved a pretty impressive and stunning, actually, 9 hours 38 minutes, not bad. Is the 19th placed phone all time here at gsn1.com. It beats the Galaxy S7 Edge and also the Huawei Mate 8. By the way, it scores below the Huawei Mate 9 and the Google Pixel XL. If you want to know more about the charging, it requires 2 hours and 56 minutes, which is rather okay. It's below the iPhone 6s but superior to the Sony Xperia M5, and after 5 minutes of charging you're at 3%. After 15 minutes 11%, and after 1 hour 52%. Of course, there are battery saving options. I'm talking about the famous stamina ones, battery and stamina mode, so you can restrict device performance, and ultra stamina mode, accessing only the core basic features of the phone. Now we're off to the music front. At first sight you can see this cutout here and this one here, and you may believe, wow, we have stereo speakers at the front. Nope. We have one singular speaker here, sadly. Now let's put it to the test and see what else we got. So first we go to the music player. This one carries the heritage and the legacy of the Walkman player. Quite a few options. We got Spotify integration, we got a ton of features. We got Clear Audio Plus, you got your sound effects, you got your equalizer, genre settings. There's this area of 5 custom channels. There's clear bass. So with the proper tweaks, even if you're not happy with the stock experience, you can tweak your surround and whatever you want to be adequate to your requirements. Dynamic normalizer and a bunch of special settings for special Sony headphones. By the way, we do not get bundled headphones. Okay, so that's that. Now let's listen to some tunes. Okay, so here we go, some tunes. Let's turn the volume all the way to the max. Okay, now some conclusions. I'm happy with the volume, it's quite loud, everything is great, very nice voice, bass, clarity, nothing to complain about, even the high notes are okay, and you will not cover the speaker if you hold the phone like this. I feel there's a huge difference in volume between 100%, 50% or even 70%, so check it out. I barely touched the volume button and you can already feel the difference. Too big of a difference, I would say. Now, we actually did a bunch of tests with a decibel meter, and let's see what that came out. I also have to mention that sometimes when watching video, the audio will go out for some reason, maybe some codec problems, not very sure. Now, these are the results we achieved with these speakers, so 86.1 decibels at the front and the back when listening to our typical audio sample, and when using Riptide GP Renegade the game, 100.7 decibels, very impressive, it's actually top 3 among all of our phones, and the first result beat the Huawei Nova and the Asus Zenfone 3 Deluxe, but scored below the Galaxy S6 for example. So, a solid little speaker here, but we remain with the regret of not having dual stereo speakers at the front. Now, on the camera front, on paper were promised flagship level cameras. So the back, 23 megapixel shooter, LED flash, Exmor RS, hybrid autofocus, f2.0 aperture, the works. At the front, LED flash, 16 megapixel camera, and guess what? Optical image stabilization. Now, I do not want to bore you with the typical Xperia interface, you already saw it in the unboxing, so I'm going to get through it very fast. So, superior auto, some manual mode action, white balance, exposure, shutter, focus, ISO, HDR, resolution. This is the superior auto actually, this is the manual, and the video area, which only lets you film full HD, 30 frames per second, and that's about it. Now, the actual camera experience involves some lag, especially in low light conditions, so lag when focusing, lag when taking pictures, and that's a bit of a bummer. Now, we get to the actual gallery, and as usual, we've taken many shots. Over 200 of them. I hope I will not bore you because we have a ton of them. So first of all, we started indoors during a cat expo. Yes, there is a cat expo, there's such a thing, and let's see what that was about. So indoor conditions with not so good lighting, many of the shots were blurred. You really have to try and focus properly to get a proper shot, especially up close. I would have to say that the colors were okay, calibrated, and when zooming in, we did lose some quality. Like here, for example, regular distance, zooming in, and as you can see, a lot of grain happening here. So the clarity was so-so, the colors were reasonable, and the brightness was quite okay. Now, this is inside the tent of the Cat Expo. We went outside, and let's see how that panned out. Okay, so this is the Bran Castle in Romania, you know, the home of Dracula, or Vlad Tepes, as you know it from the series Castlevania, now on Netflix. Okay, so I'm not very happy with this green. This shade of green is not very sRGB calibrated, so to say. Dynamic range could be better in the distance, but as usual, thanks to a big Sony sensor, we have a lot of details. The panorama is quite generous, 21,504 pixels over 3456. Loads of details and not very curved, luckily. A lot of details in landscape shots. All the colors look nice except for the green. I'm happy with the red though. Pretty good close-ups, but you have to do a bit of work to get them properly because every once in a while you'll struggle with the focusing. Okay, so we also have an HDR here somewhere, so regular shot, HDR shot, which really makes the contours pop, keep that in mind. And we then tried out a few selfies. At first they seemed a bit blurred, and I was shocked to see that the background was actually clearer than my face, but then we went out into the sun and recorded some better selfies. Now, these are close-ups of flowers, they're quite good, but they took a lot of work to focus. I promised you better selfies. The sun was very strong, that's why I'm squinting, but the texture of the skin and the hair is excellent for the selfie, and the background isn't half bad, so keep that in mind. Okay, several more shots here. Selfies, close-ups, Dracula's castle, Bran in Romania. So those are it, those are the shots we've taken outside, impressive sights here, and the conclusions are as follows. So the camera is a mixed bag, it's not very constant, sometimes it's excellent, sometimes it's not. I'm referring especially to the hues of green. I'm loving the details, I'm loving the clarity, dynamic range not so much, selfies are quite excellent, so a mixed bag overall. I would put it on par with the Asus Zenfone 3 Galaxy A5 2017 and maybe the Asus Zenfone 3 Deluxe if you remember it, or maybe above it on account of the better details and maybe the colors. Indoors it's below the LG V10 for example. Those are daytime captures and those are nighttime captures. You can see them here. They would be reasonable for a mid-ranger, but for this phone that promised a flagship camera, well, I expected a bit more. What I liked the most was the flash. It actually made the pics come to life. Not bad colors here. I would call them reasonable, nice clarity and lighting for low light captures. A bit of lag when taking shots, so if it's the night and you're pressing the shutter button, you have to wait 2 or 3 seconds to have the picture taken. Good details, nice lighting, focus and clarity, but a bit of yellow and green sneaked into the shots for some reason, so a bit of color aberration. I would put it on par with the Huawei P10 Lite. Now on the video front, let's see what we have here because we have too many of them. I'm going to resort to the video application. Okay, so let's start with the daytime videos. So indoors, that's one of the videos, the Cat Expo. Okay, focus, zoom in and you lose quality. Pretty good microphone, nice colors minus the green like the photos. Okay, details and lighting. Okay, that's indoors. Outdoors, things tend to look like this. A bit of problem with the dynamic range here, pretty decent exposure change, good clarity, not so nice hue of green, zooming in results in detail loss. We filmed in Full HD, MP4, 30 frames per second, 70 mega per second, and that's about it. Some of the shots were burnt on account of the very strong summer sun. While the main camera feels, I would say, okay for a mid-ranger, doesn't break records, but at least the focus is good. The focus never let us down. The exposure change is also good. Well, the front camera was actually shockingly good. After all, it has optical image stabilization. So front camera goes something like this. So descending the steps of the Bran Castle, the home of Dracula, in a Batman t-shirt, bit of irony. There was a bit of a problem with exposure change at some point, and once again it's a front camera that's filming while taking down a few steps. I would call it okay, so vloggers should be happy about it. Also happy with the microphone, by the way. That's something to remember here. Excellent front camera when filming. The back camera, well, could need a bit of improvement in dynamic range and colors. Low light videos had some trouble. Things are too yellow here, shaky, washed out. Street light halos are too big. There's a bit of focus loss when trying object tracking. At least the microphone remains nice and some grain will sneak in. The low light capture is below the Huawei P10 Lite, I would say, and the Asus Zenfone 3 again. At least the daytime was okay. So we're done with the cameras. Not exactly flagship level, although the selfie shooter was totally impressive. Now, on the browser front, we got Chrome, and let's load up gsmdom.com. Here we go, gsmdom.com. Not the best speed in the world, which is also confirmed by the Velamo and Sunspider results we achieved. Here we go, browsing, and input is done via SwiftKey with a swipe-like movement included. Now, on the connectivity front, we are fully featured. We got USB Type-C port at the bottom, 4G LTE Category 6, Wi-Fi, NFC, Bluetooth 4.2, and the works. The phone comes in a single SIM version, a dual SIM version with nano SIM card slots. There's GPS, GLONASS, Wi-Fi dual band, NFC, Miracast, Bluetooth 4.2 support for Google Cast. The calls are loud and clear. We got an excellent microphone and pretty good voice cancelling, noise cancelling, in case you're wondering. Now, we also did a bunch of speed tests and let's see how those panned out. We have a lot of them. This is the speed test, the main one, and we achieved 98 megapixel downloads on 4G and 30 megapixel uploads also on 4G. On Wi-Fi 76 megapixel downloads, 25 megapixel uploads, and those are well within limits, so no problem here. On the software front, Android Nougat with a pretty typical Xperia UI on front. Xperia UI means it resembles the PlayStation interface, lots of white, lots of transparency, lots of side menus, and a pretty clean interface. Those are the widgets, some stock, some Sony, wallpapers, themes, settings with loop, icon size, icon type, and so forth. Drop down section goes like this, pretty clear and clean. Notifications and quick settings. We got a special home screen for the Google Now area. Let's see what else. Multitasking done via carousel, as you probably expected. And have to mention, we do not have a fingerprint scanner here. After all, this button is very small, would have been hard to authenticate through it. Now in the settings area, nothing fancy or unusual. Connectivity, themes, display notifications, sound, storage, battery, lock screen, accounts, assist, and one-handed operation. So guess what? You can resize the screen. If it's too big for you, you can do something like this, and you can use it more easily as I'm doing right now. So I'm basically using a 5-inch phone or even smaller, and that's a pretty cute experience. You can also move it to this side, or you can go back to your regular experience, or even resize it. How cool is that? And move it around. Okay, back to full size again. Now as far as the apps are concerned, I counted them all and there are 44 of them. Luckily you can uninstall most of them. I'll remind you, some of them like PlayStation, What's New, News, there's a Sketch, Movie Creator, Xperia Lounge, Spotify is here pre-installed, the Google applications, AVG protection for antivirus sake, and Amazon Shopping. So that's the end of the review. This is the Sony Xperia XA1 Ultra. That's a mouthful. The biggest Sony Xperia phone we've tested so far. So Xperia XA1 Ultra. And the pros are as follows. It's great for video capture, especially with the front camera, so vloggers beware. It's got a very bright screen, a great front camera for the selfies, a pretty good main camera. I would have to say that the main speaker is loud, the software is okay, it's up to date, video capture is overall okay, and the microphone surprised me in a pleasant fashion. On the cons side, well, the camera is not constant, the main one. The phone is not waterproof, there's no fingerprint scanner, it's quite a massive device, has some overheating problems, some hiccups, some lag, and seems to have a problem with the hue of green when taking photos or videos. For me, this feels like a tool for a vlogger, YouTuber, concert goer, Netflix binging teenager maybe, or someone between 20 or 30 years old, less for gaming on account of the MediaTek CPU, and it's also a bit of a tablet replacement. So vloggers, Netflix, concert goers, this is the phone for you. 6-incher, not very comfy, but at least it's narrow and has the cool edge-to-edge thing going for it. This has been the review of the Xperia XA1 Ultra from gsn.com. Hope you liked it. Bye bye.